Hi everyone, I'm with Kris Rudeegraap here. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name,
All
Chris. I'm
good.
sure you can correct me. We're here with Chris, CEO or co-CEO of Sendoso. Chris, maybe you can quickly introduce yourself and the company just before we jump in, and I want to dive into my questions for you.
Of course. Yeah, I'm Kris Rudeegraap. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of Sendoso. Started the company a little over 9 years ago, and prior to that, spent about a decade in sales myself. So I was early on, saw this onslaught of emails and sales reps just sending out a gazillion emails, and it worked so well 10 years ago. But with the email sequencing tools, the early like yes swears, tout apps, early outreach sales off days, I had this feeling that email was going to become spammier and harder to get responses. And so I started early on testing out sending out gifts, sending out handwritten notes, being on a call, hearing a dog bark, and sending out a dog toy after to the prospect. And it all worked super well. It was just insanely manual and time consuming to pack boxes at like 8 o'clock at night after work, or try to click tracking links, or get my boss to expense, Amazon receipts. So I dreamed of a solution that kind of automated it and orchestrated it all for me, and that's where Sendoso was born. So we're, this software fulfillment platform where you can pick from, swag, gifts, direct mail, you name it. There's hundreds of thousands of items. We have all the global fulfillment. We have all the integrations into your tech, sales, marketing, whatever, hundreds of integrations. And we have this AI data layer where we can suggest gifts, suggest addresses, suggest drafts of notes. And it's just become a must-have in today's busy world, which ironically 10 years ago I thought, email was becoming a little overplayed. Fast forward to today, especially with all this AI, it's harder than ever to get your message and break through the noise. And so we're seeing a big surge.
That's really cool. Is the philosophy behind it similar to, let's say, like I heard about this book, Giftology? Is it
Yeah,
similar?
pretty much. There's like a mixture of psychology where there's this, laws of
Reciprocity?
reciprocity. And so that's one part that plays into why gifting and direct mail works well. Another part is because there's some built-in costs associated with gifting and direct mail, people do it a lot less, which preserves the channel. So you're not getting like 400 boxes on your, desk each day or in your mailbox. Probably wish. I wish I got more. And so that preserves it so it's more unique, and so you end up getting less of it. Also, a FedEx box on your doorstep, the open rate is like 100%. Who's not going to open that up? Curiosity is also a part of that. And so all those things play into why it just works so well.
Gotcha. That makes so much sense. So with Sendoso, it's also personalized, right? So it's not just
100%.
any gift.
Yeah, you can set it up so that it's one-to-one personal, hyper targeted to the individual. You can personalize it based on like a campaign, like trying to drive people to an event or a conference, personalize it based on the company itself. There's lots of different ways that you can decide how personal you want it, or how on brand you want it.
Do people and can people measure metrics behind ROI of something like that?
Couple different ways you look at ROI. One, I think you look at ROI of the cost to execute. And I think for a lot of companies, they're doing this manually. They're paying like a really expensive head of DG, demand gen, or head of sales development, or even expensive sales reps to like pack boxes and mail things out. So that's like an easy ROI of just like the cost to execute. Another way to look at ROI is you want to do a lot more of it, and so you need someone like us to be able to execute, and and so there's some ROI on just the opportunity cost of not doing enough of this. Then there's ROI on the actual efficacy of the channel and tracking. Okay, I sent this to this person and they scanned a QR code, or they went to this short URL, or there was an opportunity created 2 days after it was delivered. So there's some ROI there. There's also just the ROI of the costs of goods sold. So I kind of think about it as like the Costco model, where we can buy things at cheaper prices because of the hundreds of millions of spend we do. We can pass along those costs, and so it's cheaper to use us than to do it yourself as well.
Is there like some automations like CRMs can understand that, hey, that person got a gift from us and now they're signing up on our platform or something like
Correct.
that?
Yep, exactly. And then we show some of the ROI reporting in our dashboards. We also push all the data into the HubSpot Salesforces, the Marketos, the all the different sales and marketing tools, so that you can look at the data yourself or into your data warehouse. We have some more sophisticated companies that want this into their data lakes, their snowflakes, and that's where they're looking at a more massive data attribution.
That's really cool. So let's dive into some scrappy lead generation and
Sure.
sales beginnings. I know you're a pretty sizable company right now, very successful. I'm curious, when you were starting out, what are some of the strategies that a lot of folks here watching this might not have thought about, and maybe something outside of the box that comes to your mind?
Yeah, a lot of different tactics that we used in the early days. I think one was really leveraging our networks really well and not being scared to ask everybody for introductions and warm intros. I think I spent, months and months and months just going through my LinkedIn asking for intros, and that worked really well for us. Did a lot of, spray and pray. I think I'm an advocate of, emailing, doing all the channels, and we sent a lot of emails. And I still think you can do that today. You might not get as much results, but you still should be, emailing as many people as possible. Another underutilized one for early founders, typically because they think about there's a high price, is field events, specifically like larger conferences. In the early years, we would spend a lot of money to show up at these conferences, and I think I don't see as many, seed stage companies at conferences as I would like, because it's a great way to get in front of people. You only have to book a handful of deals to make that worthwhile, but you get a lot of brand value. You're sitting next to another well-established company that you can kind of leverage. You can also use it as a play when you're reaching out to people to say, hey, you go to this conference, I'll be there, come meet, which is a little bit warmer of an outreach than just like, hey, do you want a demo? So I think that is something that I suggest people do very early, is go to a conference like month one. Also do a lot of customer evangelism. So make your customers, advisors, make your customers shareholders, make your customers so stoked that they're going to go out and evangelize for you and build that community too.
Do you have any numbers behind those conferences? I was talking with Max from Wormly the other day. He was at our GTM hackathon. He said that they have a quite straightforward ROI and are actually organizing events and fetching customers from that. Were you ever measuring that?
Yeah, we would look at direct attribution, whether it's this person stopped by our booth or this person was at a dinner at one of the events, and we could see if that how much opportunity pipeline was created from that event or influenced. And we always saw positive return on events. I think there's so much more that's not captured there too. People walking by, looking at your booth, being like, "That sounds interesting," and then going on their phone and requesting a demo. So I think you do get a lot of indirect value above and beyond with the event. But I think when people are like, "Oh, it's 25,000 for this event, that's way too much." I'm always like, "Yeah, but how many is that? 3 deals, a couple deals, 5 deals, one deal, half a deal? Why wouldn't you do it?"
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be that, right? I organize some events here in the Bay Area, and it can cost like a couple of thousand of dollars, and you
Yeah,
can
you could
easily
do
get
like an exec
sponsors.
dinner. I mean, exec dinners are another great way, or exec breakfast. Just get a bunch of your ICPs in a dinner or bar. And again, like you said, a couple grand. Also, it gives you the opportunity to reach out to partners too. In the early days, we did a lot of partner co-selling with SalesLoft, with Outreach, with HubSpot, and these partners with Demandbase, with Sixth Sense, and these partners were much larger, but it made us look bigger than we were. And then they would split the cost of like an exec dinner. They would have their lists to invite, and our solutions worked together. There was an integration. So I think for entrepreneurs listening, even if you can create some simple integration with other companies, even if it's not core functionality, if it's just a value add for your users, you're going to be able to then have a better together story that you can market.
Those are huge. Any strategies on how to actually go and approach those partners?
Well, the nice thing is a lot of companies have partner teams and partner head of partnerships, partnership managers love to have conversations. They're not going to say no. So I'd say go find partnership team. I think the more critical thing is if you're not an integrate, like for us, like we partner with, let's just say Outreach, because then you can send a gift through an Outreach sequence. So there was like a really natural partnership. But I'd argue that for other founders where it's not so obvious, that they should brainstorm around it. Hey, can you add a data partnership where you're going to push data into these tools, and that's good enough to where you can say, hey, we're partnered up and we have a better together story. Because I think the better together story really helps the narrative versus just like we sell to the same people, so let's just have a dinner and sell together.
And when you talk about those cold emails, do you remember any like quantities and numbers? Some people will tell me that they're saying like 50,000 a month, and I think people don't realize the volume you need to push out there.
Yeah, I think we were doing hundreds of thousands a month, and doing more than that today. I think email is a bit of a volume play. The other thing that I always like to tout is that like you can send someone an email today, and then 3 months later you can send them another email, even if you've sent them a bunch, like a sequence ran through. Maybe you hit them up again. Like people don't aren't like, oh no, like Sendoso emailed me like 3 months, 1 week, and 7 days ago, and the subject line was this, and I'm gonna remember. It's like people get so many emails that you just got to keep hitting people. And like, if I asked you like what was an email you got 3 months ago, you probably couldn't remember.
Right. Any good strategies? Because I mean, obviously, just sending generic emails and pitching something probably doesn't work. I'm sure you're trying to catch their attention somehow.
Yeah, I mean, we were pretty early on and big on what signals can we use, how do we enrich data so that we are personalizing these emails at scale? How do we look at uh, other third-party data that we can bring in? I think back in the day it was a lot harder for us because there wasn't as cool tools like Clay or ZoomInfo that really have so much more data that makes it so much easier to pull in this data into your emails and personalize it at scale. So I think there's no reason why you shouldn't be using signal data, using hyper personalization to make those emails drive more conversion.
Can you talk about signals, like what kind of signals and what it is? I think it's a bit of
Yeah,
more
it
complicated. Mhm.
could be first party data that you have, like someone was visited your website or engaged with your content and signals like that. It could be like job change data and signals like that. It could be company events, like company just released some earnings and mentioned X, or company was just open up a new office and expanding in X. So there's a lot of signals out there on the person you're target, the company, or other events happening in their industry. So I think there's no reason why you shouldn't be using these third-party data providers that have a lot of signal data. Besides like the Unifies and Common Rooms and Clays and Zoom Infos of the world, there's just a plethora of these tools out there now.
That's really cool. When you mentioned those company names like ZoomInfo, Clay, and so on, can you talk more about the tech stack for GTM? Like, for example, for signals or, for example, for enriching data, what do you guys use? What do you recommend? Obviously, you're not endorsing them.
Yeah,
I'm sure you can say
yeah,
something
yeah.
about it.
We're big fans of Clay and the orchestration that we can do with their data, and that allows us to push into other sequencing tools. Salesforce users that also use HubSpot, Marketo on the marketing side. There's a lot of tools that we're experimenting with. Octave is a new tool for experimenting with messaging, using some new tools like Win to help with like pushing data from conversations back into CRM, big Gong users and the data that you can get from all the call intelligence, and the automations too with their Gong Engage tool. So we're pretty heavy on marketing, using new AI tools for content optimization. For Yeah, I think there's right now we live in a world where there's a lot of really useful tools out there.
And as for hyper personalization of emails, unless you're hands off and you have your team doing that, but if you remember,
For the hyper personalization of emails, it's a mixture of pulling in data from Clay and then using OpenAI in one of their columns and using those together. Also using Octave. So Octave does a lot of hyper personalization for us based on a lot of different personas, which is for us, we sell in sales teams, marketing teams, enablement teams, post sales account management teams, HR teams will use it. And then we have tech companies, banks, insurance, sports teams, hospitality. So you can only imagine that you need to target the right buyer with the right vernacular in the right industry so you don't say something stupid.
it's really cool. And then just coming back to those partnerships, do you guys also work on channel partnerships and formalizing it somehow with them?
Yeah, our partnerships are kind of two big areas for us. One is our tech partnership ecosystem, a lot of the tech partners that I mentioned. We do a lot of co-marketing, co-selling, co-events. And then we have our agency partners. And these are a lot of marketing agencies, ABM agencies, sales outbound agencies that are looking at ways that they can leverage our platform to help their clients run campaigns better.
That's really, really, really cool. So you talked about what worked or what works. What did not work for you?
Let's see, what didn't work. I think cold calling was something that we always struggled with in the early years. That didn't work as well for us. I think at the time, maybe I would say it didn't work as well as the other channels did, so we did less of it. I know today we're doing more of that. I think we're using Orem right now as a tool for that. But that in the early years wasn't a big focus area for us. Um, I would say the other thing that we didn't do as well in the early years is we were hyper focused on new logos and like sell, 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 and we left a lot of expansion on the table. Now we're a lot better at that, but this is like 9 years in. I'd say in the early years, it's like how do you create a process where you can drive 150% plus NRR and really think about expansion too, and not just new logo, new logo, new logo, because I think that's easy to get excited about. um, so we didn't do a lot of as much good expansion. That didn't work as well for us in the early years. Um, what else? SEO was early for us. That worked really well, um, and it still is working really well.
Or are
Uh,
you more into the ChatGPT SEO, the AEO, or whatever
that
it's
is
called?
something we're still like trying to figure out. If I'm being honest, I don't think we've quite figured out how to game that system or how to better optimize for it. I think there's some cool tools that are popping up to try to help you both understand and then optimize, but I think it's still like very early.
Gotcha. Do you have some cool stories of some I'm thinking just some, scrappy, crazy situations you're in. For example, last time I was talking with somebody, they shared a story that this one company in the Bay Area, they started, wearing those food delivery clothes, pretending like they are delivering food, but then they just try to get inside of the office. Totally crazy story. But then we talked a lot about, being in GTM, leading the company, founder-led sales, or just, in GTM in general. It's about being that 5%, 10% better than anybody else, just pushing more. I'm just trying to, like think of some of your mindsets that you have around this starting from the beginning. Do you, like agree with those strategies, or maybe it's something else, or anything
Yeah.
crazy that happened in your life like
I
that?
mean, I love crazy guerrilla marketing strategies. I think a couple of the unique strategies that worked for us. One is I built a really extensive advisor program with hundreds of advisors early on. So if I came across a cool CMO or a cool CRO or was at a conference and met somebody, I'd make them an advisor of my company. And then I'd offer them up some equity as a thank you and then provide a monthly update. And then I'd ask for advice, for intros. And so that created like this army of GTM leaders that were willing to help me out. And that was really critical in the early days for warm introductions and other advice. So I think that was unique. Not many early founders have hundreds of advisors. Um,
How many shares did you give them that they were like so
um,
excited about
the
it?
way that I would say is it's like, hey, it'll hopefully help you buy like, a Lamborghini or at the very least a Tesla. You're not going to buy like a yacht or a house in, the Bahamas. But again, I'm not really asking for much. I'm asking for, once in a while, once, a couple times a quarter, maybe you'll get an email from me. So,
Yeah, and that's something that people ask for free anyways, and then you're giving
correct.
something anyways,
Yeah,
just to
exactly.
show the gesture as well.
Yep. The other thing that I did was I was obsessed with early customer roadshows, and I still do them. And so each year I would go meet with all my customers. Now I can't because there's too many, but I think that is something that, again, was early for us in order to keep customers and then build this community where people were just so obsessed with us. They take them if they switch companies, if they were up on stage talking about what's cool. So you really just have to be making your customers so happy and so special. And as easy as a CEO customer roadshow every year since the day we started was also a good hack for me.
So they build relationship with you, they see you in person, and
Exactly.
even there's a competing company, they already have relationship with you, so it's kind of,
Yeah. And
yeah.
then we dog fooded the heck out of Sendoso since day one. One of my favorite sends was at a conference like 6 years ago where someone came by on crutches It was a high up exec at SAP. We really wanted to book that meeting. He said he broke his ribs in a skiing accident. So I immediately went on Sendoso, sent him a rack of ribs in the mail, got back home from the conference, and he had some ribs with a funny note referencing his broken rib. And so just like that, we got the meeting, booked the deal. But I think using our platform was a kind of a secret weapon for us because we were all in on gifting and direct mail and had all the best ideas. We even had like very early, probably the first like 5 years, every week we'd have an idea competition amongst the entire company, and we'd either pick a customer or ourselves. The entire company would submit a gift idea, creative gift idea. Now we have cool AI that does it for us, but 10 years ago it wasn't as cool. But it was a fun way to just always have great ideas that we could use for gifting.
It's pretty cool. It's almost like an internal tiny hackathon of like who comes up with
Exactly.
the
It was like a gift hackathon every week.
that is so cool and
Yeah.
so smart to incentivize all your team to do that. That's
Hmm.
really cool. So it's like the awesome thing about it is that you're, like you said, you're eating your own dog food or drinking your own champagne. Like
Yeah.
that whole thing that you're doing, it's something that you can apply in your own sales strategy. So the fulfillment and your GTM can also work together. And then this is how you really came up with the idea for entire business, right? That's
Yeah.
essentially how it started.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of full circle.
We do have just a couple of minutes left. Just to slowly wrap up, the last question on my end is, have there ever been a situation in your GTM when you were like, all right, things are not working, maybe we're gonna have to close the shop or anything like that?
No, luckily. I think well, I guess I would say when COVID hit, we were already on a really good trajectory, doubled, tripled after the first couple of years. So we were like riding high. But when COVID hit and then everyone's like, go home, we were sending gifts to people's offices, right? Everyone was like, I got office addresses, let's mail, let's mail. And so we're like, WTF, there's no one in offices. Are we dead? Um, we quickly, like the day after that, launched an address confirmation feature where you could send an email saying, hey, I don't think you're at the office. Put in your home address here. We'll ship it here. By the way, Sendoso's a third party that will delete that email address. So you don't even have to worry about any personal home address storage. And then that feature just like took off and allowed us to be like a thought leadership. And everyone was like, I have so much budget that I used to spend on field marketing. I have so much budget that I was spending it on a bunch of other channels now that I can't spend on because COVID's here. Let me go spend it on sending my customers and prospects gifts to their house. And that was like a pretty big turning point where if we would have just been probably like a lot smaller, we might have just been like, yeah, we're dead. But because we had tens of millions in revenue by then already, it was like almost like we can't give up. So what can we do?
Right. Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody. Chris, Rudeegraap. Thank you so much. That was amazing. Those strategies are really, really cool, super practical, very hands on, and yeah, very useful call. Thanks so much, Chris. I
Yep.
really
Thanks for having
appreciate
me
you
on. Love
participating.
chatting with other folks. So please follow me on LinkedIn, add me, shoot me a message if you want to talk. Always love brainstorming, go to market with folks.
Great. Yeah, we're gonna definitely tag you and link to your profile so everybody can find you. Thanks so much, Chris.